Raider Nation, what's good with you guys? I appreciate you checking in. Earlier today, now this is November 30th, a huge article dropped by Hondo Carpenter. And if you don't know who he is, I suggest that you check him out. He's on YouTube, he's on Twitter. He's a beat writer for Sports Illustrated, and he covers the Raiders. So he's inside the walls of the facility at the Raiders. So he's got inside access, talking to the coaches, the players, everybody in that facility. And he dropped a very interesting article that I want to cover and talk about. One, he kind of details out the relationship between Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels. And he details a lot of things, but I'm going to touch on a couple that kind of shows who was really making the decisions. Now, I kind of knew who was making the decisions when Josh McDaniels was hired on, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But it details out the relationship and how decisions were made. It also details out a huge draft trade attempt in last year's first round. And then it kind of details out how Dave Ziegler really tried to help McDaniels, or attempt to get McDaniels out of the disaster that he basically created this last year and a half. So that's kind of what I want to get into. Now, before you kind of get all crazy and be like, look, Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, they're out, move on, get over it. One of the things that I think the Raider fan base has to just be able to soak in and understand is that we've made a lot of mistakes as an organization, and we need to learn from those mistakes. And if you don't learn from it, or if you don't have the willingness to understand where your mistakes happened, and you just push on and move on and just scream at the rooftops for the next head coach or whatever it may be, you're not going to understand what steps we need to take the next time around. And so that's why I think this is relevant. So kind of stick with me on this. And if you could, before I fully get into this, please like the video, subscribe if you can, and turn on those notifications. My last video that I did about Max Crosby, all of you guys were great on interacting, liking the video, showing the support. So I appreciate every single one of you. So let's kind of go back a little bit. And one of the things, and where it kind of started, was one of the things that Hondo Carpenter detailed out was there was a couple of decisions made, when Josh McDaniels was hired on. One big decision that he detailed out was Josh McDaniels did not like Alec Ingold. And so, but Dave Ziegler did. And the reason I was actually pretty bummed, I was pretty disappointed when we let Alec Ingold go. One, because he was a captain. He was extremely productive for us. And two, he was great in the community. I live here next to the Vegas area, and he was very involved in the community. And so you put all those together, I was very surprised that they let him go, and they brought in Jakob Johnson. Now, I know Jakob Johnson was familiar with Josh McDaniels' system, but the thing is that Josh McDaniels' system required a fullback. And I thought Alec Ingold could have been a great fullback, but they let him go. Now, this details out that Dave Ziegler wanted Alec Ingold to stay on the roster for all the reasons I just stated. He was well respected in the locker room. He was a captain. He was a productive football player, and he was great in the community. But Josh McDaniels wanted his guy. And what happened? He got his guy. Alec Ingold was out, which I think really started the process of tearing apart that locker room, and Jakob Johnson came in. So that was one big detail that Hondo Carpenter kind of put out in his article that struck me. That, okay, it kind of confirms my thoughts that, yeah, Josh McDaniels was calling all the shots. And then we get to the Derek Carr situation, right? Derek Carr, he's ousted, okay? And look, you can agree or disagree whether or not you wanted Derek Carr out, but I think the way they did him was pretty dirty. But look, both Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels, I think they both agreed on moving on from Carr, so they did. And obviously with the intention that they both thought Tom Brady was coming over. And that didn't work out. Tom Brady ended up retiring or stayed retired. And that put them kind of in a situation of panic. And you kind of saw it, right? And there was two different situations. And this is what Hondo Carpenter kind of lays out. Once Tom Brady stated that he was no longer coming over to the Raiders, Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels were on two separate paths. Josh McDaniels wanted his guy, Jimmy G. Dave Ziegler wanted to stick with Jared Stidham and bring in Jacoby Brissett. Now, let me talk about this for just a second. I wanted actually that exact scenario. I wanted us, because we let Carr go, and this is before the draft. I figured we were going to draft somebody, and I wanted to have kind of that gap quarterback, which I thought Jacoby Brissett could have been that good quarterback. Jared Stidham, Jacoby Brissett, you're going to go ahead and battle. Jared Stidham showed some pretty good things at the tail end of that 2021 season, 2022 season. And why we let him go and let him go to the Broncos, a division rival for of all teams, I don't know. But Dave Ziegler wanted Jared Stidham to stay on the roster and bring on Jacoby Brissett, which I think could have been a great stopgap quarterback, to bring on a rookie and kind of groom that rookie. I thought that would have been a really good decision. You don't have to spend a ton of money, and he's a productive enough quarterback to kind of get you through 1 year. But Josh McDaniels wanted Jimmy Garoppolo, and we all know now how that worked out. But again, just like Alec Ingold, that was Josh McDaniels' decision. And so let's kind of fast forward, and now we get to draft day. And apparently in the first round of the draft, there was a trade scenario that was on the table between us, the Bears, and the Houston Texans. So the Bears held the first pick, and the way that it was going to work, it was going to be a three-team trade, and it would have bumped us up to the second pick, and we would have gotten, or at least went after, CJ Stroud. Now, I know social media was going crazy on who everybody wanted to get as a quarterback. You had Bryce Young sitting there, you had CJ Stroud sitting there, and apparently everything was squashed by Josh McDaniels. Dave Ziegler, as well as Champ Kelly, our interim general manager, they thought that CJ Stroud was the next best thing. They thought that he was that generational talent that they wanted to get on the roster. But Josh McDaniels wanted Bryce Young. Now, again, made sense, right? Bryce Young is more of a pocket-style quarterback. He really did fit his system. But it's just another example of Josh McDaniels. This is what he wanted, and this is what he got. So that trade was squashed. And so I didn't want us to trade up for Stroud. Couple reasons. One, because I thought that by trading up, we were going to have to give away the farm. And I didn't want to jeopardize our future for a guy like CJ Stroud, not because CJ Stroud wasn't good, not because I didn't think he could be good. It's because I didn't want to risk it because I knew Josh McDaniels was trash. There's a saying that I've said for a long time, like, good talent doesn't make shitty coaching better. Shitty coaching makes good talent worse. And it's all about coaching. It's all about development. It's how you bring these players up and how you implement them into your system. And if you can't do it, you are going to ruin some careers. And I felt that if we gave away the farm, we gave away a bunch of draft picks, Josh McDaniels was going to screw over CJ Stroud's career, because I didn't know if Mark Davis had what it took to let Josh McDaniels go, because Mark Davis was just, to me, it felt like he was such a Patriot guy that he was going to literally hold on to Josh McDaniels. And so that's a lot that was detailed out in this. And what that shows to me, and I knew this was the case, and I knew this was the case with John Gruden, is Josh McDaniels and John Gruden, they called the shots. Why? Because Mark Davis brought them in first, and then the GM came on. So Dave Ziegler didn't have a call on anything. He didn't have a say on anything because he knew he was answering to Josh McDaniels. Same thing with Mike Mayock. Mike Mayock answered to John Gruden. Why? Because John Gruden brought in Mike Mayock. The head coach ran the show. And that's where the problem lies. And this is where I'm going to tie it all together. Is as much as we want head coaches, and that's fine, I need us to make sure we pick the right GM. Because moving forward, there's 3 ways to run a team, right? There's an owner-run type of team, which you look at Jerry Jones, right? Jerry Jones runs the Dallas Cowboys. Nobody else does. He calls the shots. Then you got the GM run type teams, right? So you got like John Lynch. John Lynch runs the 49ers over there. You got Eric DaCosta that runs the Ravens. Prior to that was Ozzie Newsome. GM run organizations. And then you got the head coach run organizations like John Gruden was, as well as Josh McDaniels. To me, a head coach ran team never or rarely ever works because you need someone to hold that head coach accountable. Josh McDaniels was never held accountable for anything that he did. It was his way or the highway. He made the decisions, and he screwed us over by bringing in Jimmy Garoppolo. He screwed us over by getting rid of some of the captains in this locker room. Now, again, you can agree or not with Derek Carr. That's fine. But the way that he did it, I think, was shitty. So Josh McDaniels, by being as stubborn as he was and wasn't held accountable and didn't listen to others, that's where I think we went wrong. And so this is why I think this article is relevant, because there were times and there were situations where I think Dave Ziegler was trying to do the right thing. He was trying to get Josh McDaniels to make the right decision. And Josh McDaniels was just way too stubborn. So moving forward, as the rest of the season goes on and as we go into the offseason, I just want the Raider fan base to take a step back and really focus on not just who the head coach is, but also focus on who's going to hold that coach accountable. Really look at the GMs. Look at the GMs and look at who can be put in place that's going to be well respected enough that he can bring in his guy, which is his head coach, and make sure that that head coach is accountable for all the decisions that he wants to make. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Again, I think it was relevant because I think it details out why a head coach run team is not a good idea, and we need to make sure that we have pieces in place to hold everybody accountable. So I appreciate it, guys. I know it's a bye week. It sucks when it's a bye week, but I'm going to be dropping more content. I'm going to be talking about head coaches because there's a lot of head coaches names that are popping up. So I'm going to drop a video on that in the next couple of days. But before that, I'm going to actually drop a video. Look out for it Saturday morning, which is going to kind of detail out the AFC West, the standings, the playoff situation. I know we don't have much of a shot, but it's actually good to know where we're at and what we're looking for. And then a couple games. If you are still sticking around and watching football on Sunday, there's a couple games we definitely got to watch because depending on the outcome of those games could really dictate kind of where we go for the rest of the season. So I appreciate you guys. And please, if you can, like the video, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out.